The shoot, there's a literal for an empty sequence. I'm trying to remember what it was. There you go. Okay, an empty one. Yeah, I actually think this. Yeah, actually, this does translate to that down at the end. Whoops. Getting a little happy with my hotkeys. Alright. So the main idea behind this mod, for those of you who are interested in hearing, is, I don't know, so I don't know who here has heard of Femtocraft 1. You probably have. I'm guessing people who came were followers who got notified that I started streaming again. You may or may not know that I basically shelved Femtocraft 1 for several reasons. First and foremost, it was a prototype, and what the heck just happened? What? Let's try this again. It was a prototype and probably should have been scrapped a lot earlier. Not only that, but I basically was designing it as I was coding it. I didn't have I had an idea of what I wanted to make going in, but I didn't actually have any concrete plans. So I started just, while I'm coding, like, oh, this sounds cool, or I can see where I can do some mechanic like that, not actually whether the mechanic was any good or not, which led to things such as the magnetism debacle and other things, which were pretty funny in retrospect, but when you're actually playing the game or trying to balance things around it, don't quite work. And not only that, but just the whole industry machine layout and all that stuff. If anyone actually tried to play the beta, I literally was watching someone clear out their entire ME system multiple times over while trying to advance the first tier of Femtocraft. And there were 3 tiers, each one building on the other exponentially, not multiplicatively too, which was the other funny thing. So basically, I made it was also an EE clone, which is a bad idea now to make. I can see that. So basically, what it was, I got the hardness of EE, but I didn't keep in any of the stuff that made you able to do that. You got to nano. Okay, well, you did. I was watching Bryce, but I guess Bryce isn't necessarily the best. I required cybermass. Ah, okay. Yeah, I need to fill in all these crap. No cybermass for now. Yeah, but like the machine layout for the first one wasn't. It was too centralized. There's only 2 machines, one to break things down and one to build things up. And with everything having values and stuff, there was really missing the intermediate stuff, like the processing machines, was what Femto 1 is missing. And it was just kind of, it got away from me, and I wasn't really able to reel it back, and things started breaking way back in the core, and I was at a point where I had no idea how to fix it, or take way too much effort to fix it compared to the gains, because it'd be fixing something which is too deeply hooked into everything else, which is already somewhat breaking and probably have to be torn out. And at that point, it's like, this is a prototype. I learned a lot. I learned how to code. I learned how to do all this stuff from it. Well, not learned to code. I learned how to code in Minecraft. Off of it, there's probably a whole bunch of really bad carryovers and stuff. Let's start fresh. Not only let's start fresh, but let's make sure that we actually have a good design that leads to an interesting gameplay before I get too deep in the code that I lose sight of what I'm doing. Yeah, and this design definitely does look a lot better. There we go. Okay. Design looks tons better just because we spent literally, well, we spent, a lot of us spent months tossing ideas around, thinking of what's supposed to be the core. The main thing is I was planning, didn't even for Femtocraft 2 at the start, still didn't make it in. Actually, not still didn't. Made it in and immediately got scrapped because they're actually terrible ideas. And then it kept getting filtered through and filtered through. And then this is kind of what we come up with. So the premise is, because I like theme. As those of you who are watching Femtocraft 1, like there's a lot of the theme. There's the coloring. There's that whole idea. And I was kind of thinking, like, what would be a really cool world to be in, right? You're in the Minecraft world, and if I'm planning on this being used with other mods, it's like, there's magic and there's all this stuff, and there's tech mods, but they're all the industry mods. Like, where's the fun tech, right? Where's the really cool machines, the sci-fi stuff? And I'm not talking Star Trek sci-fi, like that is a mod apparently, but it's like, where's the really cool machines in here? Where's the stuff that's like so advanced you can't tell that it's not magic? And where would that come from? And luckily, one of the fourth walls had already been broken in the form of alternative dimensions. We've got the end, we've got the nether, so it's like, okay, so what would be a good source of alternative technology? It's something that you wouldn't be able to understand but could still make use of. And it's like, so all the other things in industry, like the stuff that you can make. So it needs to be something that kind of guides you. And at the same time, other things are coming out. I'd always had just kind of the fun idea. So this is kind of how it started out. Was the original idea was, how there's bees in forestry and you can change them around and they've got different values. My idea was, what if you could have some equivalent, in this case nanite strains, so you actually breed different nanite strains, work them together, and the idea was you could stick in machines. The machines would have different aspects, like they'd work faster, they'd have different boosters. Depending on the trait of their nanite strain, the machine might do extra things or have extra interactions. So that was the original idea. That didn't pan out for a couple of reasons. One, if you have a lot of machines, you have to have a lot of nanite strains. So either nanite strains are really proliferous, like if you need 40 strains, you have to be able to make a lot of them fast. But at the same point, that also draws away from the whole breeding aspect of strains and keeping them around and making them better, because either you do it once on one strain, you can just copy that strain and you get to end game really easy, or it's really hard, at which point all of your machines will be running off of basic nanites. It's just a whole lot of kind of conflict of interest between a lot of machine, like if you're using machines versus if you're using a lot of fewer machines. How if nanites are proliferous, then they can't be too expensive, but if they're not too expensive, then there's no real gain to, yeah. That was the original idea. But building off of that, the theme was basically something somewhere, some interdimensional ship, let's say, filled with nanites, phases into our world. But it doesn't do so successfully. So imagine like you're dimension hopping, right? And the vast majority of space is space, hence the name space. But occasionally there's a hard rock or two floating around. And the ship hit the astronomical, so named because it's so freaking unlikely to happen, but it does. It hit the astronomical odds that where it decided to phase into was actually a planet. And it was our planet. So what you actually get, in this case, this is the only... There's supposed to be two different types of world spawn. This is one right now. Is you get something like this. What this actually is this is a portion of the ship that completely broke apart. Now, the part of the ship that stayed together hasn't been made yet. And these textures are completely temporary and they look completely awful, but the idea is this is basically nanites kind of just infested this space, and they're powered by these crystals. And these crystals kind of project a field that keeps the nanites alive and working. It's kind of like a power field. You can call it that if you want. And the whole idea is buried in the nanite somewhere is a program that for now is just called the archive, and that's going to be the research component of Femtocraft 2. And this isn't a happy-go-lucky mod. The archive isn't necessarily a nice thing. what's going to happen is once you find one of these places and you get close, the nanites, the archive, which is fulfilling its mission of basically just gather all the knowledge it can. Think V'ger from Star Trek. It determines that the only way that it's going to continue to gather knowledge is to get out of its little zone of containment, and so it body hops into you and notices that you've got a lot of space in your brain that it can store knowledge in, and so it kind of takes over parts of your brain, and then yeah, it body hops you basically. But that's your source of information. It wants to gather information. It wants you to gather information. It's going to decide to keep that information for you and make sure that it's accessible, which is kind of nice. But it's kind of riding along for the sake of riding along too, which isn't quite so nice. Anyways, so that's one part of the mod. So if you notice, if we were talking earlier, this was talking about like this part versus like this part. So there's this way to build machines, right? I can choose one of the machines here. Okay, that's what that was. Any other ghost blocks? Okay, and there's this way of building machines, which was this thing, which is not quite named. So the idea is the mod's kind of split in two. There's one part that mod that's going to be really technological, and one part of the mod that's going to be much more magical. I can say like the advanced tech. So those things over there are the nanites that spawned in that are broken apart. They kind of went wild. Excuse me. They naturalized. They lost everything that made them unique. They kind of just became another organism trying to survive. That's actually this cyber. Right now, the term for the running term we're using is called cyber, and it's going to be very plant-like. This is a cyber base, a cyber stalk, basically. So you build upwards with it, and you can select from the list of machines to build. None of this works. Okay, no, it doesn't work. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But the idea is that with the cyber stuff, that's going to be the tech portion of the mod. So it's going to be building upwards. It's going to be a lot of like the processing. There's going to be wires and stuff, aka the roots and leaves and stuff of plants are going to be the wires in your industry system. Now, the part that's not in the game yet is the really advanced part. That's where the ship's still together, and that's going to be where hopefully you still have some differentiation. That part's still a little work in progress at the moment, design-wise. And that's going to be the part that's of the mod that's supposed to feel very magical. So a lot of kind of like ritualistic things. Yeah, cyberbot. Oh shit! I corrupt my. Well, I didn't corrupt my world, but I planted a block I can't render. Yeah, cyberbot. So yeah, I definitely not corrupt the world. I just planted a block I can't render. If I fix it, I can load it again, but I really don't care at this point. That's gonna be the magic part. That's gonna be a lot of the whole the ritualized mechanisms to make things work that you don't understand, but the archive does kind of thing. That's gonna be the things that interact with different parts of reality that you didn't even know existed that it does because it's an interdimensional nanite artificial intelligence. It knows things that you can only dream of, basically. Also, along that lines, though, is that its ship was destroyed. It's kind of a ride-along. It lost all its data banks. It doesn't know what it was doing, why it decided to jump, or what was going on. And so that's kind of the future of the mod is up for debate there. Yeah, so if future AI plays you, yeah. Well, let's just say that you in the archive are not the best of buds, and there's probably going to be a conflict down the road once this mod gets a bit further. Well, so that's the idea, is that there's two parts. There's the part that's magical and there's the part that's techie, but both of them are going to be very futuristic, which is something that I feel is kind of lacking right now in the modding world. It's a lot of cyberpunk, well, sorry, not cyberpunk, steampunk is really more what it is. It's Flaxbeard's Steam mods. There's apply immersive engineering, which is very European kind of steampunk. And I figure that this would be kind of a fun thing to work on. It's the style of mod that I really want to play, and that's the main reason I'm working on it. But yeah, that's the mod in a nutshell. Is right now it's just kind of for fun. Just make some fun alternate ways of just doing things in the world, but hopefully pretty thematically. See, this has been a great place to actually set up everything. All right. So those machines are in.